Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, horror. I've got a slasher for you in Small Press Fridays, The Summerside Lake Massacre by LRJ Allen. So I haven't done one of these Small Press Fridays videos for ages, so apologies for that. I need to get better at doing them. I have got a couple, so before I get into the review of the Summerside Lake Massacre, I've got a couple of books to talk to you about quickly. If you're new to the channel and you haven't watched these Small Press Fridays videos before, what I do in them is just talk about books either from small presses or independently published authors that I've read or been sent or have bought, just to give those those authors and publishers a bit more of a spotlight than they might get otherwise. So I've got three books here. I've got three books here to talk about before I get into the Summerside Lake Massacre. So the first one is one I bought, and I'm assuming that Parthian is a small press. I've not heard of them before, but this is Hey Bert by Roberto Pastore, who is Bert from the channel Pastori Time. So this is a book of Bert's poetry, which I got recently, which I'm very much looking forward to reading, and I will report back in one of these videos once I've read it and let you know what it's like. And then I've also got two books from Gareth from the channel Book Songs and Other Magic, which he sent me. So another fantastic channel. So one is his novel Out Among the Ice Beacons, which has got a wonderful cover, hasn't it? Which sounds exciting and gripping and interesting. It describes itself as part adventure, part commentary on religion and philosophy, part political drama and part comedy. So really looking forward to reading this at some point soon. And Gareth also sent me a book of his poems, Permanent Verb, which again I'm looking forward to dipping into, and I will report back on both of those in a future video. So let's talk about the Summerside Lake Massacre then. So this is a book I read on Kindle. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, and it was really fun. So I'm really getting into slasher books recently. I've read quite a few, and it's a subgenre of book that I wouldn't have expected to be that successful. I think of slashers as very much a film thing and something that works well on screen but wouldn't necessarily translate well into a book. But actually, the ones I've read recently have all been fantastic, and this was no exception. So it draws on a lot of the kind of classic tropes of slasher movies. In particular, it seems quite influenced by Halloween, but also Friday the 13th as well. So it has as the name would suggest, it has a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not holiday camp, like summer camp vibe to it. So it's set in and around a summer camp that's near this small town, and it features a killer who committed a terrible crime years before, as in Halloween, and has now managed to escape from prison. So in this book, it starts with so he's been imprisoned for kind of 15 years, I think, and there is a trial to talk about his ongoing incarceration. And at that, it is agreed that he will be moved from a maximum security prison to a minimum security one. And lo and behold, there's then a problem at the minimum security prison, and he escapes and comes back to town. There's a strong sheriff character in this, which is something that I think is a bit unusual for slashers. Slashers tend very much to focus on non-law enforcement characters. So it was interesting to see a sheriff character in this. There's also a whole sort of a double layer of flashbacks, if you like. So there's a flashback to the 50s when the camp opened, and some events then, like non-horrific events, and then also flashbacks to the crimes that the killer committed in the 1970s. The book itself, the main portion of it, is set in the 80s, which is obviously the best setting for or time setting anyway for a slasher. And the details of what this guy did in the past are really well done. So it reads like a serial killer story rather than a traditional slasher at that point, with him, his kind of crimes being discovered, and then him then going on a spree and killing various people around the town. And as I say, years later, the camp is reopening, or reopening for the summer. There's a bunch of new camp counsellors there, and a caretaker and things like that. The killer has escaped from prison. The sheriff's trying to figure out where he is, and it all comes together in, I guess, really the final third, to a big gruesome climax. What I enjoyed most about this book really was two things. Actually, before I get into those two things, so firstly, the setting is done really well. There's a nice mix of different characters who all feel quite distinct from each other, and they all, have different voices, and it works well as kind of an ensemble cast with this small town setting as well. But then the two things that work really well are the horror scene. So the kills, if you like, in this book are really well written. So both the ones from the 70s and then the kind of 80s modern day ones are entertaining to read in the way that a slasher movie is entertaining to watch. So they're quite creative, they're very gory, and it's just a lot of nasty fun. The other thing that works really well with this book is, as in a number of slashers, there is a mystery element. So when you think back to the first Friday the 13th movie, for example, you don't know who the killer is. And clearly, in the kind of giallo movies that came out of Italy, that is usually the case, that the killer is normally mysterious. In this book, you do know who the killer is, but there is also a mystery woven through it that works really, really well. And as the book progresses, you discover that things aren't quite what you thought they were, and the events of the past, both the 50s and the 70s, are kind of woven into what's going on in the 80s in a really clever way. So aside from the kind of horror aspect of it, there's a mystery element which is really, really quite well handled. So overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will definitely read more by LRJ Allen. I think this is his first novel, but he has some short stories out there which I may well check out. But I'm definitely interested to see if he does more novels as well, because this was an awful lot of fun. And if you like slashers, I definitely recommend it. Hello, it's me, but a slightly different me from the one you saw in the video, because a couple of weeks have passed since I filmed it. So occasionally it happens that I film a video with an intention of it going up, and normally I intend my videos to go up within a week or so of me filming them. And then things happen, I have to change the schedule and I have to delay putting the video up. And that happened with this video. And during that delay, I've received another small press book, which I thought it would make sense to talk about here. So this book is a book called Dog Meat by Priscilla Bettis. So Priscilla is a wonderful part of the BookTube community. She doesn't have a channel of her own, but she's a regular viewer and commenter and supporter of BookTubers, particularly horror BookTubers. And she's also an author. And as I say, she sent me a copy of her new novella, Dog Meat, to review, and I wanted to show it because the packaging of it is absolutely wonderful. So it comes in this wrapped in white paper, like something you would get from the butchers. I don't know if you can see, it's got like the price on there and everything. And then when you unwrap it, the book itself, sorry for the rustling, the book itself is packaged in a kind of polystyrene tray, like meat would be, with cellophane over the top of it. So top marks, Priscilla, for wonderful presentation for your book, and thank you very much again for sending it to me. It's on my TBR for October, so looking forward to getting to it soon. And then the other thing that happened in between me filming this video and it eventually going up is that I reintroduced a random book from the shelves, a little slot I do at the end of my videos where I pull a random book out and talk about it. So I hadn't filmed one of those segments for this video, so I thought I'd better do that now, given I was filming about Priscilla's book anyway. So the book I've chosen today is an independently published book. So it's Every Time We Meet at the Burger King, Your Whole Fucking Face Explodes by Carlton Mellick, which is a fantastic title, and it's a very enjoyable book. It's definitely weird. It's, it definitely falls into the bizarro subgenre of horror. It is about a young man whose girlfriend, whenever they go on a date, her face explodes and has to be put back together again. It's a very, very strange book. It's quite disturbing at times. Some of the stuff this girl has gone through is pretty horrific, but it's also quite tender and sweet at times. So it's an interesting mix, and it's the only Carlton Mellick book I've read, but it did make me want to read more by him. As always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.